Hey folks, it's Dom here, and it's been a while since I've done a video like this where I'm just sitting down with my lizard dude sprite and I'm just talking to you about something to do with Elder Scrolls Legends, or anything really. But today I thought I'd do a video talking about the Hexagauntlet now that it has passed, and giving my thoughts on probably one of the biggest issues, which was the very clear meta involved with the Hexagauntlet. And that is Swindler's Market. Now, you do see the occasional invade deck as well being incredibly strong, but I'm going to spend this video talking about Swindler's Market and how it was able to be abused so heavily that you could pretty much win on turn 5 with a lucky draw and a little bit of knowledge. You just need to have a very specific deck combination, and if you don't believe me on how strong this can be, I'll show you one game of well, the event that I had, where I did use this deck, and to show you how well strong it really is. Because the issue with a deck like this is the only thing your opponent can really do is either block, their lanes of guards to stop firebrands, cheapening the costs of spoils of war, or getting rid of the supports you put down. But if their deck doesn't have support removal, which in an event like the Hexagauntlet, where you want to utilize having loads of different loads of the same card, support removal did get overlooked. And because of this, it did mean that you could just, abuse your opponent with Swindler's Market, for the rate where if you could get 3 down, or half of your Swindler's Markets down, you'd need 10 zero-cost cards to just win from max health. And the thing is, by then, on turn 5 or turn 6, you are quite likely to have already done a bit of damage with them, especially if you ran the build like I did, where you had a lot of one power cards of charge that could hit face as well, and unsummon, basically returning firebrands to your hand or other zero-cost creatures, so you can just, double use them for actual Swindler's power. And there were different versions of the deck that I'm going to go over in the video, but right now we'll stick on this map where I can show you how I am utilising this. In case you were wondering why I joined the dark side and did this, I wanted to see how far I could get with 2 runs. So I didn't do all 3 runs of Swindler's Market. I did the first run I did was with a deck that I genuinely made and wanted to try out during this event and the video that is coming out tomorrow. But the other 2 runs, I decided to try Swindler's Market, and despite my first run being heavily botched, to say the least, with 2 runs of this deck, I managed to get to 113th place. So that's just shy of top 100, and that's with 2 runs. Those other people in the top 100 will likely have used their 3 runs with a deck like this. It's just depending on their level of knowledge of a deck like this. And as you can really see now, this is the turn where I kind of go in on turn 5 and show them the actual power this deck has. Because we've got Close Call just to grab back one of our firebrands and make these Spoils of War just cost nothing. And what even salts the wound here even more, we don't need to use another Swindler's Market, but I believe, yes, we do draw into another one, and because I was just going for the footage, I thought I'll play it for why not sake, and further prove a point. But look at this is insane. Like, the opponent, there's literally nothing they can really do, and it is very painful for them to have to just sit there and deal with this. And now, after I've shown you this clip, I will show you basically how this deck works. So, your main 3 cards that you'll have 6 of are Swindler's Market, Spoils of War, and Close Call. Swindler's Market is obviously the thing for abusing your zero-cost cards by, whenever you play one, damaging your opponent by 1 and gaining 1 health. Spoils of War is a 5-cost card which draws 2 cards, but every time you hit your opponent, it costs 1 less. And that is really crucial with this. Close Call is a 0-cost card to unsummon a friendly creature, and works very well with other 0-cost creatures for basically getting multiple uses out of them being 0-cost and having Swindler's Market go off. Now here alone, this is 18 of your 30 cards in the event, which is ridiculous because you've got a fifth of your deck being draw power, you've got a fifth of your deck being your game plan, a fifth of your deck which heavily supports your game plan, and then you've pretty much got 2 other cards which you could be a bit flexible about depending on personal preference or what you believe would work better. Now obviously there were better choices, but I will show you some of the ones that I saw personally. And these were, depending on your attribute, say in strength you'd see people running Nord Firebrands. You'd also see in intelligence Forked Bolt, which I think was probably the least effective of these 3 options. And probably the most effective, I won't lie, would be Suppress. Because, as you'll see later, Suppress is ridiculously good at basically covering up the weaknesses of this deck. And as a deck that's a 5-turn winner, there's not much else that can really stop you winning that quickly. I say 5 turns, that's if you draw optimally. If you don't draw optimally and you have to wait a bit for Swindler's Markets, it can be around turn 7 or 8. But even then, that's still very quick, so unless you're up against aggro, you will usually get stomped. And with the deck I actually tried, which wasn't Swindler's on this event, I had a game against Swindler's Market, and I am going to show it in tomorrow's video. But you're all going to hate me for it, because I make one misplay and throw the entire game from it. But anyway, back onto this video. The final and 5th card that you could go for is the one which is mainly just for extra consistency. Either you could go for Dres Spy and give, yourself more 0-cost creatures, which I'd say would be heavily recommended, especially if you went for, say, Scout or Assassin over Archer, because Archer having Firebrand. And it also allows you to look at the top card of your deck and go, okay, I don't want that, and kind of thin down to what will help you get off the strongest Swindler's kind of combo. Or, as I did with Archer, you could use Bandari Opportunist, because it's a nice 1/1/1, which will empower your Spoils of War, as well as putting other cards in your deck for draw power. And that's pretty much how you just play this deck. You wait, you get your cards for it, and then you strike as soon as you can do it a 1-turn kill. Specifically a 1-turn kill, or at least get them low enough that you're not going to be worried that you'll be killed the next turn. But anyway, on to counters, because I'm not just feeding all of you guys tips on how to dominate the meta and then, well, not win, or have that destroy the Hexagauntlet. So these are the main counters that I could find to beating this deck. You have Withered Hand Cultist, Bedeviling Scamp, and Dismantle, also Piercing Twilight. Now, Withered Hand Cultist and Bedeviling Scamp are very similar cards in one sense, but they both completely just block the 0-cost side of what you're going up against, which is really good because it can massively siphon the quantity of Swindler's Market effects that your opponent can get off, especially as their cards are costing, so they've actually got to kind of work out what they're doing, and can quite easily win you the game if your opponent isn't running Endurance, because with Suppress, they can get rid of these passive abilities, and you're back to square one, although it does at least cost them a bit of Magicka, meaning it could stop them playing an extra Swindler's Market or something like that. As that is what this main deck's weakness is. Swindler's Market does not have any form of removal or way of dealing with creatures. So if you can do something like this, you can pretty much block your opponent. And in fact, I even recorded a game to show you how effective these two cards are at blocking. Watch as I get completely dominated in this game. Now, I'm going to not talk through most of this, but I will talk through this first bit. Basically, for context, this was like my 15th game with this deck. I'd already had maybe, 1-2 losses, but both my losses had been to other Swindlers decks. So, this was weird, because it took a long time, and I had lots of wins under my belt, but I finally came up against Swindler's counter, and, well, I'll let you see my reaction.
Watches over me.
Yes!
Nicely done.
Yes! Well played. Yes!
watches over.
Oh my god! The first game I record!
Surprise!
And I find the guy who's done it.
You have met your end.
Yes! Oh, my friend. You've done it. You have countered it.
We must remain steadfast. Nicely done. Enjoy the
Yes!
next fight, fool.
You're nothing.
And this was such a good hand. Oh my god.
A dark
Oh, what a legend. Oh my
I want to
goodness.
be an assassin, like Nari.
Yes. I'm so proud. This would have been the most abusive game. You know what, no.
by the egg.
Solitude's
A fine
fair play. I love it. I love it.
Enjoy the next flight, fool.
Legend. Actual legend. I mean, as you can see, I was very, very happy to see someone counter this deck because I felt like a complete a-hole, literally going game after game, just winning straight away with a deck which I knew just wasn't fun for the opponent. But, I mean, I became a real dickhead in this event, I won't lie, and I am sorry. I literally joined the dark side just to prove a point. But, on the other side of this, we've got Dismantle and Piercing Twilight still to speak about. Dismantle's alright, but the issue is that your opponent can just play another one the next turn if they have one in hand. While Piercing Twilight is a very good card, but you do need to have some form of support removal. And then get a Swinner's Market in the grave to get rid of them all. Or what you could do is, say, get rid of their suppressors, so you can keep your Withered Hand Cultists and Bedeviling Scamps unaffected, basically, and then have them stop the market, and yeah, just big win like that. But the issue is dedicating so much of your deck to stopping Swindlers really does mess you up, because, you know, if they're not running Swindlers, they're running Invade, for instance, you're screwed, because Invade is very good in this event, or was at least, and the issue is that if you counter so hard to Swindlers, you're not giving yourself any way of really getting around Invade properly. I mean, you've got Dismantle, actually. If you do have Dismantle, you can get rid of their gates, but still, if they have got a very well-made deck, you're a bit shafted almost. But what do I think needs to be done about this? Well, if they do have another Hexagauntlet, I know it's a bit of a we need to stop this kind of niche, but just ban Swindler's Market from the event. Maybe ban a couple of Invade cards if you're really getting nitpicky. Because the thing is, Hexagauntlet can be one of the most enjoyable and interesting events, because you get some really cool decks being made by people. Like, I saw a couple of Assemble decks with Factotums, which was really cool and interesting, but I was there as an a-hole, just Swindlers marketing them down. Or in fact, one time I ran an Ebonheart veteran deck, where you had that Forerunner who just kept on getting more and more of himself. And it's really cool that you can do stuff like that. But when you have a very clear and obvious meta, a lot of people will just dive onto it because they want the wins. And yeah, like me, I mean, I'll be honest, I do say that I was doing this just to prove a point, and I gave up one run. But still, I went through 2 full runs, and I got all those rewards. Yes, they are going to now help me have more cards for my collection to make future videos, but still, I had to piss off like 18 people or something ridiculous. Those poor people. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I just hope in future that they do bring back this event, but they kind of support more creative decks and kind of restrict ones that get as strong as this. But that is the end of this wacky rant. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and if you want to see more conversational videos, let me know in the comments. Till next time.